Remember those Saturday morning cartoons? The bright colors, the laughter, the cereal? Childhood at its most innocent. But what if some of those shows weren't meant for kids at all? Hidden beneath the surface were disturbing messages, eerie coincidences, even real-life tragedies. These aren't just playground rumors. They're stories of broadcasts that flickered across our screens, only to vanish, leaving behind fear and unanswered questions. Tonight we're tuning into the forbidden frequencies of our childhoods. Shows pulled from the airwaves for being too unsettling, too dangerous, or just too strange. So grab your remote, but be warned. Changing the channel won't save you from what you're about to see. This is a journey into the static. A look at the cursed childhood shows that were banned forever. Tonight we delve into the shadowy corners of forgotten media where unsettling tales linger like whispers in the dark. Our first case takes us to the wild frontier, a place where reality and nightmare blur. It's a story born from the depths of 1990s Canadian public access TV, a realm of unfiltered creativity and, sometimes, unintentional horror. In a small, unnamed town, nestled amidst sprawling forests and quiet lakes, a show called Mr. Bear's Cellar aired briefly, a fleeting presence on the airwaves, but its short run was enough to leave an indelible mark, and became the stuff of local legend, a chilling tale passed down through generations. The premise? Simple, yet deeply unsettling. A man in a shabby, almost pathetic bear costume, the kind that inspires more unease than comfort, sitting in a dimly lit, claustrophobic basement, the air thick with unseen dust and unspoken dread, telling stories to children, or rather, to the empty chairs where children were presumably meant to be. But these weren't the light-hearted, moral-filled fairy tales you'd expect. They were strange, veering into the bizarre and inexplicable, morbid, dwelling on themes of loss, decay, and the fragility of life, and filled with an overwhelming sense of sadness and dread, a palpable weight that seemed to seep through the television screen. The production was raw, amateurish in every sense of the word. Shaky camera work that induced nausea, poor lighting that cast long, distorted shadows, and audio that sometimes cut out, replaced by bursts of static and unsettling silence, making it feel less like a carefully crafted kids show and more like a disturbing piece of found footage, unearthed from some forgotten corner of the internet. The show's atmosphere was oppressive, a suffocating blanket of unease that clung to everything, leaving children who watched it not entertained but deeply confused and terrified, haunted by images they couldn't quite understand. Then, the legend takes a darker, far more sinister turn. The show vanished suddenly, pulled from the airwaves without explanation. And here's where the story truly descends into nightmare. Around the same time, a local child went missing, never to be seen again. Rumors spread like wildfire that police investigated the show, suspecting a connection, however tenuous, to the disappearance. Trying desperately to identify the man behind the mask, the unsettling figure known only as Mr. Bear, and seized all known tapes, hoping to find some clue, some piece of evidence that could lead them to the missing child, but no footage survives, or so the story goes. Just whispers, fragmented memories, and chilling rumors of a connection between the unsettling children's show and the tragic fate of the missing child. The man in the bear suit was never identified, his true identity lost to the mists of time and paranoia. The child was never found, their disappearance remaining a haunting, unsolved mystery. And so, Mr. Bear's Cellar faded into a chilling ghost story, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. People who claim to have seen it, those who were unfortunate enough to stumble upon it during its brief broadcast, remember the monotone, almost robotic voice of Mr. Bear, devoid of warmth or empathy, the oppressive darkness of the basement, a darkness that seemed to swallow everything whole, and a lingering, pervasive sense of unease, an uncomfortable feeling that something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. Is any of it true? Or is it simply a product of overactive imaginations and the human need for a good scare? There's no concrete evidence to be found, no surviving tapes to analyze, no official police reports to corroborate the claims, just a classic urban legend, a chilling story that festers and grows in the fertile ground of the unknown, thriving in the absence of verifiable proof. But the story, true or not, taps into a primal fear, a deep-seated anxiety that resonates within us all, the fear of the trusted figure who isn't what they seem, the friendly face that hides a sinister intent, and the unsettling possibility that the monsters we see on TV might not be confined to the flickering screen, that they might be lurking just beyond our perception. Mr. Bear's Cellar remains a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. A reminder that sometimes, the most terrifying stories are the ones we can never prove, the ones that linger in the shadows of our minds, forever unexplained and forever unsettling. Now, from the depths of internet lore, from whispers in online forums, and from the darkest corners of our collective imagination, emerges a tale of a show that was very real, a show that defined childhoods for many, a show that pushed boundaries, and a show that, according to some, crossed a line it could never uncross. Pee-wee's Playhouse. A vibrant, chaotic, and utterly unique landscape of imagination. But what if, lurking within that joyful chaos, was something truly sinister? In 1989, an episode allegedly aired that was so disturbing, so profoundly unsettling, that it was immediately banned, buried, and scrubbed from existence. A television ghost story, if you will. The episode, known only as Clowning Around, featured a guest character called Clowny the Clown. A clown unlike any other seen before on children's television. He was a tall, unnervingly thin figure, almost skeletal in appearance, with thick, caked-on makeup that was perpetually smeared and running, as if he were melting from the inside out. His smile was a grotesque gash, and his eyes were dead, vacant pools that seemed to stare right through you. Clowny didn't speak a single word, only emitted raspy wheezes and performed unsettling mimes that bordered on the macabre. Instead of the usual lighthearted fun and silly tricks, he would saw props with a strange, frantic energy, almost as if he were trying to destroy them. He prepared sandwiches with a viscous, red, blood-like substance, the origin of which was never explained, all while staring directly into the camera with that unsettling, dead-eyed gaze. The climax of the episode, Clowny performed a magic trick where he made Pee-wee disappear completely, vanishing him into thin air. He then stood wheezing, staring blankly at the empty chair where Pee-wee had been just moments before, as the show abruptly and unceremoniously cut to a commercial break. Parents, horrified by what they had just witnessed, flooded the network with angry phone calls and complaint letters. Children were reportedly having vivid nightmares, unable to sleep after seeing Clowny's disturbing antics. Some children experienced panic attacks, overwhelmed by the sheer wrongness of the character. And according to the most extreme rumors, some children even suffered seizures as a result of the episode. CBS, facing a public relations nightmare, immediately pulled the episode from its broadcast schedule. It has never aired again since that fateful day, effectively vanishing from the airwaves. And strangely, the episode was conspicuously missing from all subsequent home video releases and streaming platforms. To this day, no verifiable footage or even screenshots of the Clowning Around episode have ever surfaced online. Paul Reubens, the creator and star of Pee-wee's Playhouse, and the rest of the cast and crew have never publicly acknowledged the existence of this episode. Some skeptics argue that the entire story is nothing more than a collective false memory, a trick of the mind, a prime example of the Mandela effect, where a large group of people share a false memory. This theory suggests that the legend of Clowny is fueled by the show's already surreal and at times genuinely creepy vibe, but the sheer number of people who vividly remember Clowny and his unsettling performance continues to fuel the legend and keep the mystery alive, refusing to let it fade into obscurity. So whether the tale of Clowning Around is real or simply a product of our collective imagination, the story serves as a chilling reminder of how a single, disturbing image can haunt an entire generation, and how television networks sometimes attempt to bury and erase their scariest, most regrettable mistakes from the public consciousness. Our next story didn't start on TV, but in the hazy realm of memory and the internet. In 2009, a user on a web forum asked, "Does anyone remember Candle Cove?" Others chimed in, recalling a low-budget puppet show about a girl named Janice and a group of pirates, including the terrifying Skin Taker, a skeletal marionette with a cape made of children's skin. The memories grew darker: jerky puppetry, boats bobbing on fake water, and an infamous screaming episode where characters convulsed and screamed in agony. The most chilling twist: parents remembered their kids staring at static, convinced they were watching a show that didn't exist. Was Candle Cove a real show, or a mass hallucination? The truth: Candle Cove was a work of fiction, a creepypasta by Chris Straub, written as a series of forum posts. But it felt so plausible it blurred the line between memory and myth. People began to remember seeing it, even though it never aired. Candle Cove became a modern folktale, a testament to the power of storytelling and the unreliability of childhood memory. Sometimes the scariest shows are the ones we only think we saw. Not all nightmares came from obscure shows, the kind you'd stumble upon late at night channel surfing through static. Some nightmares were far more insidious. Some were broadcast in plain sight, with the best intentions during prime time, nestled between children's programming and the evening news. These were the public service announcements, or PSAs, designed to educate and protect. But one PSA in particular crossed the line from cautionary tale to pure, unadulterated terror. Enter the Clockman. This wasn't some forgotten horror film or urban legend whispered in schoolyards. This was a British PSA from the late 1970s, broadcast on national television, meant to warn children about the dangers of the dark. The animation was stark and cold, devoid of warmth or comfort. It was a minimalist cartoon style that somehow amplified the dread. The scene opens on a boy in bed, seemingly asleep and vulnerable. But all is not well. Shadows are twisting and contorting in the corners of the room, taking on menacing shapes, and from the darkness a faceless, gliding figure emerges. The Clockman. He doesn't walk, he glides, a silent predator stalking his prey. He had a blank, white face like a clock, an unsettling void where features should be. He moved silently toward the terrified boy, his presence a suffocating blanket of dread. The narrator intoned, his voice a chilling monotone. There are things in the dark that are not your friends. They are always watching, always waiting. They wait for you to close your eyes, to let your guard down, to surrender to sleep. The Clockman led the boy into a swirling void, a vortex of nothingness, never to return, consumed by the darkness, lost forever. The intended message, don't wander off, was completely lost in the sheer, unadulterated terror of the visuals. The fear overshadowed any practical advice. For kids who saw it, the effect was devastating, leaving an indelible mark on their young psyches. Sleepless nights filled with dread and the fear of the unknown, new phobias, a crippling fear of the dark and the things that lurked within it, and a pervasive sense that their fears were real, that the Clockman was out there waiting in the shadows. For years, people debated if it was real or just a shared nightmare, a collective delusion fueled by childhood anxieties. Then, a grainy, distorted copy surfaced online, confirming the worst fears of a generation. The horror was real, and even worse than remembered, amplified by the passage of time and the collective trauma it represented. The Clockman became a legend, a cautionary figure whispered in hushed tones on internet forums, a case study in how good intentions can go horribly wrong, a testament to the power of imagery to scar and traumatize. It's a reminder, a stark and unsettling truth. Sometimes the scariest lessons are the ones that haunt us for life, the ones that burrow deep into our subconscious and never truly let go. Even the most innocent shows can stumble into nightmare territory. In 1997, an early Teletubbies episode featured a segment called The Lion and the Bear. The sketch: a wooden lion puppet with unblinking eyes and a booming voice rolling across the hills chanting, "I'm the scary lion with big scary teeth." The Teletubbies cowered in fear, and the music was ominous, nothing like the show's usual gentle tone. Then came the bear jerky growling and even scarier, chasing the lion with crashing cymbals and frantic music. Toddlers were terrified. Parents flooded the BBC with complaints about nightmares and tears. The BBC banned the original episode, forcing the producers to re-edit the segment for future broadcasts. The new version was silly and harmless, but the original became lost media, a playground rumor until it resurfaced online years later. Watching it now, it's easy to see why it was banned. It's genuinely creepy. The Lion and the Bear is a lesson in how a single creative choice, a deep voice, a minor key, can turn fun into fear. Even in Teletubbyland, nightmares can lurk just over the next hill. From haunted public access broadcasts, those grainy signals from another world, to major network mishaps, those moments of unexpected chaos, the line between entertainment and terror is razor thin, isn't it? These stories, real, misremembered, or invented, are the ghost stories of the television age we now inhabit. They remind us that childhood isn't always as bright and innocent as we remember. Sometimes the TV reflected our deepest fears, our hidden anxieties. The static fades, the screen goes dark, but the memories linger, casting long shadows. The tales of Mr. Bear, Clowny, Candle Cove, the Clockman, and the Lion and Bear are now part of your story, woven into your viewing experience too. What you do with them, how you interpret them, is entirely up to you. Just remember, for every show we recall, Every memory we cherish, another may be waiting in the darkness.